We begin with shocking news. It's going to leave some MK1 racers with their jaws on the floor, but there has been a realignment to the Champions League format. Earlier in the season, MK1 was guaranteed 7 spots and MKS was guaranteed 5, but due to a challenge by MKS, a judge has overturned this in a court of appeals. There is 5 spots for each league now, with the final 2 spots being decided by a 4-race event. It's going to be exciting. I love the extra action, to be quite honest with you. I love those final 2 spots being filled in, but I know there's going to be a lot of racers who had their Champions League ticket punched. And, after this weekend and after this update, they're going to be looking in on the outside. So there's a lot going on in MK1 and MKS, and this Champions League news, it changes really what the playoffs might look like. So it's really exciting stuff for us, but we're going to talk about it more on the drift. And for now, let's dive into the highlights. Starting off at the Shortbread Classic, and it's going to be bone dry dunes. I know that the commissioner, he's not much of a shortbread lover, and he's made a point of it. A lot of these are really dry levels. He's quoted to me, he said he's had to drink a full glass of water anytime he's had a shortbread cookie. Not sure what kind of shortbread he's eating, but he's a sugar cookie guy. I don't really get it, but let's dive into the racing. You see Specialty, you see Mad. They're having fun out there. They're the wild cards, and we love it. And look at that bullet at the right time for Mad. Up front, Donald is cruising into first, which is a sight we're going to be seeing a lot this weekend. Specialty out of nowhere with the bullet, and Mad just squeaking across after that shell. Beautiful work. Bullets, absolute chaos. Moving on to the next event. Once again, the Calamari Desert. The dryness. Once again, he's making his point. But a fellow shortbread lover on the track, and I wish a lover of mine player. He's just driving that car so nice, and it's a sweet, sweet treat for us. As an announcer and as a play-by-play guy, sometimes you just need to get out a big bucket of popcorn and enjoy the show. Player dominating on Calamari, and a sight that we'd love to see. This is straight out of the box office, people. And his wife at number 2, she is looking angry. Stabran, ooh, that's an exciting little third. Moving on to the next event, Grumble Volcano. Oh, and this is a fun one. Also a controversial site, Morton Construction. It's falling apart all the time, but we've already litigated that. Donald having fun. Marky Mark and him going back and forth. Marky Mark's really having a good race here. He's leading a lot of the way, and he's having a great time doing it. Yoshi Soar also just hanging on, and she's having a sneaky weekend here. A nice little race here could set her up for some big races down the line in this event. But look at her go. She's just looking in control. She's become a steady presence in the league, but going forward to the final corner, look at this work by Donald Hogg. This is some Daredevil stuff over the gap, and let's look at it again. Jumping in front of Marky Mark. He avoids that sloppy shell. Hey, to be fair, he's covered in oil. Marky Mark second place, and an old reliable face, Yoshi Soar, coming in third. Now moving on to the final event. Look at this tick-tock clock. Donald Hogg just going at it, and it's just, who can compete with this guy today? He is on another level. He is just, it's astounding to see what he's doing on the track this season. I have not seen anyone racing this good since Sexy Bacon's rookie year. It's shocking. But there's lots of fun racers on the track. Marky Mark's having a good time out there. Not his best event, but he's had some nice races, and this is one of them. Look at him go, and ooh. Sexy Bacon being boombox and then returning the favor, but sloppy racing. We haven't seen Sexy Bacon on the podium at all this event, which is shocking to see. This was an event he needed to win. Donald Hogg in first, dominating. Marky Mark in second, and then we see our third star, who used to be our first star, coming in. And meanwhile, look at this. Yoshi Soar coming in and having a 4th place, which is gonna almost clinch second place. Specialty has a chance, but we look at the chaos that happens here. Shell after shell after shell, and he falls all the way back into 11th. Him and Player tied for 3rd. What an exciting event, and a lot of wild cards, and props to Yoshi Soar. But moving on to the Golden Capital. Man, oh man, this is one of my favorite cups. and it is chaos. And this is just a gorgeous track. Marky Mark always feels at home here because he is royalty. Little Lord reference perhaps, but Donald Hogg getting it on the receiving end of Carly from a green shell, but it's just chaos on the track and bombs and wildness all over the place. And look at this, coming into the final little corner. Let's see how it shapes up. Marky Mark coming in first. We've seen that on this track quite a bit. Donald Hogg, beautiful mushroom work. And one of my favorite racers that we're starting to see a little bit more of, Carly. And I think it's kind of surprising, but she is starting to one-up SB in certain weekends, which is shocking to see. And now this is an event that all the ladies are going to want to stand up for and applaud. Women's rights. I mean, I think it was 1919 that women's voting was passed, and now we're seeing women stand on the podium together, and presumably they're still allowed to vote as well. But look at that, Rachel sneaking in at first, and we see Tanis, the young budding star. Look at this one. There's fire everywhere. It does not phase her. She throws that banana, misses Rachel earlier on, but an easy second place. And here comes Donald. He's always finding a way to squeeze in on that podium. Always impressive to see, and just a really incredible racer. Now moving on to the next race, Rainbow Road. What can you say at this point? It was the Donald Hogg weekend, and at this point we've seen Sexy Bacon on the podium once, a third place, and it's just not easy to see. I mean, the momentum was in Sexy Bacon's favor. He was racing well, and another no-show weekend. Gab Gab, having fun with that sword, and we'll see later on how much fun he had on this track at the end of this event. Donald Hogg in first, and right behind him, Gab Gab in second place, but Carly just coming in, and once again, Carly finishing ahead of Sexy Bacon, and we know that Sexy Bacon has that dominating force in him. We've seen it on weekends where he just dominates. But man, oh man, he is not bringing it every weekend. But here's a little treat. This is a little bit of a throwback in a sense. A little Sexy Bacon on the track, and he's racing well on DK Jungle, one of the most technical, wonderful tracks in the game. And look at this, right on the final corner, a perfectly placed red shell, and he gets his first place podium of the weekend. A really disappointing one. It doesn't matter because Donald Hogg is in first, and Rachel with another podium as well. So as we move on to the leaderboard, things are starting to get difficult here. Donald Hogg has got a huge lead on Sexy Bacon. He's going to need some really tough weekends. I think outside of maybe the Gilly Classic, he has not finished off the podium. It's 1 and 2s, and it's really not enough for Sexy Bacon to make up any real ground. So it's going to have to be a real push or a real collapse in the second half of the season. But this change in the format for Champions League, there's no denying that this is getting a lot more interesting. Before, the gap was Carly to player, lots of room there. Now you got Carly, Rachel, and Special Tay all jockeying for that 5th spot. And with the way that Special Tay's been racing, he might be up in a snug 4th. So you might have Rachel and Yoshi fighting back and forth. But man, it is exciting to see. And it's tough to see Sexy Bacon really, by his standards and what we expect of him, struggling this bad. So, but anyway, enough about Sexy Bacon. We're going to move on to, I'm a professional, but it's becoming one of my least favorite segments of the week. I would say my favorite place to be. You keep it together for the highlights, but it's like controlling, it's like trying to push down a volcano from exploding. It's like, hey, there's a volcano about to explode. Go try and plug it. Yeah, I'll try and do that. No, I'm getting on the next plane out. It's a mess. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna beat around the bush. I'm not even gonna. The Sexy Bacon loss. His racing this weekend was not good. It was not good for me. I mean, I took a bath on this, and oh boy, they're loving the sound effects in the producer's room, showing that number. Yes, yes. Right now, I owe about half of a hog at the moment, so it's going to take some really creative betting and some really smart moves for me to dig myself out of this hole. And I'm reminded of the quote to dig up. And I know that's, I forget the source of it, but I would love to dig up right now. And I think, or dig down and reach pay dirt and reach a big pot of gold perhaps. But yeah, this is a tough spot to be in, to be quite honest with you. And yeah, I mean, 10,000 grand gone. Woof, it's gone. So boy, that was a tough one. 11,000 grand. Geez, I mean, it's gone. So that's going to be a big amount of money. Sexy Bacon was geez. I mean, he couldn't even make a podium a couple times. And man, it's just, you're in disbelief watching this kind of stuff. But, I'm a smart guy and I'm crafty and I'm a fighter. And that's what, the one thing that people have always said about me is you're a fighter, Mike. And, I've got that big parlay coming up and I might have to up the money on it. But I think, a big parlay with, I'm going to say it here, the Mercedes $1 Million Toy Series. And I'm manifesting it. The Mercedes $1 Million Toy Series. We've got Shell in first place. We've got Midas in second place. We've got a lucky number 3. So I'm feeling that, and I really feel good about that. That's my parlay. I know I originally said Pam, but, that's not going to be a big enough money for me, I think. And secondly, I had an interesting dream, and I was sort of falling off Rainbow Road, and the Lakitu, Lucky's father, safety commissioner, all this stuff for MK1, he picks the racers up. He is, fishing off the side, and beside me is a big briefcase of money, and it's falling, and I'm also falling at the same time. And the interesting thing is, he asks me, he says, I can save you or I can save the money. And I say, save the money. And he says, you're about to get lucky. And he throws down the fishing rod, I guess, not really a great tool, but it works for him. He throws down the fishing rod and he catches the briefcase and reels it up. I hit the ground as you do in a dream, and I wake up screaming in my van. Walmart attendant is banging on the door for me to leave, but I think it's a good sign for me, to be quite honest, because it's sort of saying, the money is where you're getting lucky. And, I just thought the Pam, you got to go big. They're not expecting this one, and I've had a vision in this case. So a Shell first, Midas second, and Lucky number 3. So that's going to be exciting. And let's hope this hog fund is going way up. So otherwise I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. So it's more than just losing out on a motorcycle at this point. We're going to be going way up. Okay. So that's going to be exciting for me.